Basically, what we want to do today is share with you a number of practices that Atlassian has been carrying on to make the teams that we work with internally even greater than we are already. We believe we are great, but we can do always better. So the idea here is to make the potential of the teams much better than actually we can realize. We understand that these practices are internal at Atlassian, and they may or may not apply to you and your companies. But maybe, just maybe, at the end of this presentation, you have some ideas that you think, well, maybe I can adapt that and make my teams more productive, more collaborative, and more important, more even happier than they are. So, my name is Vlad Cavalcanti, and I always want to explain this to you because people ask me if I'm either Russian or Italian. Well, it turns out I'm Brazilian, of all places, right? And as you have realized by now, I don't speak a word of Hungarian. I try, my friends at META-INF try to teach me, but only a few glasses of palinka. I try to reproduce some of the sounds, but it still doesn't work nice. But on the Hungarian language, before I start the presentation, I would like to give you an exciting announcement. And that is that Atlassian is taking localization very seriously. So in our last summit in Barcelona, we've announced that we are adding more and more languages to our website and to our products. So I'm happy to say that I won't commit to the date yet, but I can tell you it's very, very near. The Hungarian language in our website is coming up, and also at the products. So again, I won't commit to a date. You know how it works with the IT world. If you commit to next week, next month, 2 months, it always derails. But anyways, it's very, very soon. Hanging there, and you will see very soon. Of course, it's not only the Hungarian language. We're working on adding many, many languages. But since I'm here, I thought, hey, that's a nice thing to share with you. Great. Yeah, that's the cue for you to clap their hands. Great, thank you. Right, so let's start. Most of you know Atlassian, right? So I'll spare you with the details of Jira, conferences, and the products and everything. But what I wanted to say is about our mission. As I was saying before about the teams, so it's central to Atlassian. That's what we want to do, to unleash the potential of every team in every company. And it's important to us because this talk is important to share with you, because if we say that we are going to help you guys unleash the potential of all your teams in all your companies, we have to do that internally, right? Otherwise it will be like, okay, not credible. And that's exactly what we want to talk about today. But before we start with the actual presentation, so we built a formula, as we say, of successful teams, and let's share that with you. But before we start, let's debunk a very important myth, and the myth that successful people are individuals. So, for example, Steve Jobs, of course, he was a genius, he created Apple and all the products and everything, but did he do that alone? Of course not. There was a team behind him. Even that baby there was helping as well. So, Elon Musk from Tesla, a great company, a great man that probably revolutionized the automobile industry forever. But was he working alone? No, he wasn't. He had a team with him. Even Mr. Zuckerberg from Facebook, granted, he wrote code and he worked very hard in the beginning, but he was not alone either. He had a team, even though not everybody was from planet Earth. Right, so... But there are teams and there are teams, right? There are good teams, there are very good teams, and there are excellent teams. But why? What's the difference? Why do we see in companies some teams performing well and some teams not performing so well? So we borrowed a study, an internal study from Google to try and understand that. So they went to research why their teams were so different in performance and in working together. In the beginning, of course, they found about the obvious. People were listening to each other and talking to each other, communicating with each other in the high-performance teams. But they went further and they found some very interesting stuff. First of all, they found that people were working on a so-called psychologically safe environment. And they were sharing their mindset, having the same mindset, they knew exactly where they were going to. They have a direction. They had a lot of support from the organization. And they had a structure, a very strong structure as a team. So after we read this, we took these 4 points and we made the ingredients of our secret formula that we'll review now. So let's see each one of them, and let's start with the compelling direction. So compelling direction is all about, a vision. Every company has a vision where we want to be, and we are no different. Apologies for the mismatch in the font. That was a last-minute issue. But basically, we had our vision, we had our teams, we have the focus areas and the measures. So we created this, or the visionaries, the founders of the company created this and tried to, implement it in the company. They even recorded a video saying VTFM to everybody. It still remained a little bit abstract for everybody in the teams and in the company. So this is more like visionaries. So what we are experimenting now is we are implementing what we call OKRs. So I don't know if you're familiar with MBOs, but this is different. This has been implemented by Intel many years ago and made popular by a gentleman called John Doerr. And basically the idea is to align the vision of the companies with the teams and the individuals and move away from that mentality of if I achieve that objective, I am paid a bonus or I get a medal or I get a... That's not what we want. We want everybody working in the same direction, even if the ultimate goal is not really achieved. So they are quarterly goals, they are very difficult to achieve, and we move away from achieving 100 or 10. I'll give you an example. For example, if we want to develop a mobile app, so we set a goal that will have 1,000 users a day. And at the end of a period, at the end of a quarter, we see that we have achieved 700. Hey, that's a very, very good score. And we say 0.7 is an excellent score. And then people will go like, hang on a second, but I haven't achieved a goal. I haven't achieved 10. Where's my bonus? No, that's not the point here. The point is to work together and align the objectives together. It's still a work in progress, I have to say. It's not easy because it demands a lot of cultural changes, but it's working. Now we are finally, all together in the same direction. And of course, we use our tools like Confluence to share these goals amongst the companies. Another practice that we borrowed from outside is the notion of a brain trust. I don't know if you had the opportunity to read this book, but I highly recommend it. It's from Ed Catmull, one of the directors of Pixar, and it's called Creativity, Inc. Now, in this book, Ed Catmull was talking about these brain trust sessions in which the first versions of the movies that our children, and only our children, we didn't like it, right? Like Toy Story and Wall-E and Up and everything, we enjoyed so much. He said that the first versions were crap. They were terrible. So the director, the script writers, they were sitting down with other members of the Pixar teams and asking for opinions, criticism, with, as he called it, candor, a word in English that I had to look up because I hadn't heard that before. But candor means something like with honesty, with openness, but also a criticism that is constructive. And the idea is to criticize the creation and not the creator. So we adapted this and we created our product brain trust. What we do here is that once a week, our founders, Mike and Scott, they get together with the team leaders, with the project leaders, and they exchange experiences. Let me make a note here. Even though Mike and Scott, they are now the founders, they are multimillionaires and something, at their early days, they were also students. They were also programmers, testers, QAs. So they know, because they have been there, they've done that. So they can share their experience, they can help the team leaders align with the focus of the company, and they can give that perspective from outside. If you are inside the project, you sometimes miss the point. But very, very, very important, in order for such a practice to work, we have to debunk yet another myth, which is the hierarchy. it's not about the boss is telling you what to do. It's about you owning the project, and you decide if you want to accept that opinion or not. So that's the idea that we are implementing it. It is working wonders. Right. So I've given you a couple of examples of the compelling direction, one of the first ingredients of this formula. Now, support context. We have in the company, one of our values say, open company, no bullshit. We want to be very open with everything. So even we say if it's not in our EAC, which is our intranet, if it's not shared, it doesn't exist. It didn't happen, right? So transparency is everything to us. We want to share our wins when we do something great, when we achieved a reward or anything. But when things go wrong, and sometimes they do go wrong, we also want to share that. We want to share the fails, we want to learn from each other. We want to have that criticism that I was talking about, that candor kind of criticism, so that we can improve on things. And we also are able to ask questions to anyone using, again, Confluence and Confluence questions. We have some sessions with the founders every week in which we post the craziest questions. It doesn't matter. So as long as you are curious to know something, we will be very receptive to answering those questions. So it's an important thing. And also in terms of transparency, when we need immediate response, we use, of course, our chatting tool. You can use any tool. We, of course, use our own chat, which is HeadChat. We create rooms, and we ask the main experts in that topic to help us answer those questions. So transparency is everything, because it connects, like, say, the CFO with the programmer. And the transparency also helps spread the culture of the company internally. And that creates a supportive environment. Right, now to the next ingredient, which is a strong structure. What we try to avoid very much is this. Especially in the programming world, everyone locks themselves into their own rooms or cabs or in their world, and they don't communicate properly. And why should it be like this? Because in other industries like the cinema, when they are doing their product, which is the movie, everyone is together. They are there at the same time producing it. So why can't it be so with software programming? So what we do, what we encourage is cross-functional teams. So we want the programmer to be also a tester or QA, or the designer to work with the programmer so that they know each other, so that they start understanding and respecting each other, so that they have this diversity of thought, so that we know that there are different opinions, but we can still work together and produce something very, very nice. But not only having a diversity of thought, but we also want diversity of cultures. So we are a very multicultural team. In Amsterdam, where I work, we are about 35 nationalities, and that brings a very, very rich experience to us, because we have different languages, different visions of the world, and so on. Now, we do also have our refreshments and rituals. We organize parties, lots of parties, we love that. We organize family and friends days in which we invite our loved ones to share. My children, every time they come to these events, they say, "Papa, I want to work for Atlassian." I say, "Yeah, okay, but we're not only partying, we work hard here as well." But they get the idea. And we are also starting with an experiment which friends from Riyadh will recognize, which is the fika, which is basically having a coffee, right? And I was in Spain last week giving this, and people are looking, "What? Having a coffee break? What's news about it?" Yeah, you're right. Having a coffee break is not so special, but this notion is very interesting, because it's all about having a coffee break together, and together with your team leaders, your bosses, your managers, and exchanging ideas. And again, stopping working, just working in our own world, and having that productive quality time together. We also are a very welcoming company when it comes to someone new that joins the team. We know how hard it is. It's like when your first day at school. You can be lost. The company is growing. So what we do, we assign a buddy. The buddy will show you around, show you your desk, where people are sitting, the different teams. They'll tell you who to talk to. They will tell you who not to talk to. It's also important. And that will help you. And once you are feeling at ease, Then on a Friday afternoon, we invite the newcomer to move around the office with a beer bike. So you just stuff the basket at the back of the bike with beer, everything. We don't have palinka, but we have some other stuff, and then that socialization is very important for a newcomer. Now, great, we are at the last ingredient of this formula, the shared mindset. Last but not least, because this is very important. We have different views of what we need to do, right? So we have daily stand-ups. Well, what's new about it, right? That's an agile word, a very common thing. But no, hang on. It's not only for development teams. It's also for marketing teams, for the channel managers, everything. We have stand-ups every day so that we can know each other and we can sort of communicate. Even if we don't have much to say, at least we get to know each other. One example of this is a colleague of mine from France. He didn't see the point of it. Why? Why should I spend 15 to 30 minutes of my time with a stand-up? And then we said to him, you know what, we miss your input, we miss your opinion, your view of the French market that we don't know. And he changed, and he's now one of the ones that talked the most during the session. We have to shut him up sometimes. So it really changed. We use the walls, right? Yeah, my daughter tried to do that at home and it didn't quite work well with my wife. But anyways, in the office, we do that. We take the opportunity that we have so much empty walls, and we share ideas, we share projects, and we ask for feedback as well. Then we have the Innovation Week for development teams. Yes, we ask them to, in that week, to come up with something new, something crazy, doesn't matter. May or may not be implemented in the products, but try it. Hang on, but I want to make a short break here in the presentation and talk about innovation, because that's a very, very important aspect of what we do at Atlassian. So what is innovation? I was reading this article from Scott Cook, the CEO of Intuit, and he was talking about the different models of innovations across human history. And there were three of them that caught my attention. One of them is that he said, in the beginning, innovation was all about the mad scientist, right? Something crazy. Then we moved to the labs, which were implemented by IBM, HP, Intel, in which we took the geniuses, the brains, and we put them in an ivory tower, and they say, innovate. It was a step forward, but it was still like them and the rest of us. What the third one that Scott Cook was talking about is what really appeals to us at Atlassian. It's like everybody should innovate. Everybody should get the opportunity to innovate. Because what we forget sometimes is that innovation is a result of failed projects, things that should have come well and flopped, like the Newton here. But maybe the Newton here was a failed experiment, but gave birth to something really, really good that we use until today. Or, I don't know if you have heard the story of the Post-it from 3Ms. Apparently, the idea was to create a very, very strong adhesive, and they came up with a very weak adhesive. So someone else picked it up later on and developed the Post-it. So again, a failed experiment that resulted in something interesting. And then there are, of course, innovations that we hoped never were created, but they are there. Okay, so how do we motivate people to innovate? Do we say just go innovate? Do we pay them? No, it doesn't work. At Atlassian, the way we found out was to give time and space to people to innovate, and again encourage them to make mistakes and everything. So we created this Ship It Days, which happens once a quarter. And that's for everybody, not only for development team, everybody. The craziest ideas come up. And we have created Jira Service Desk, Jira Capture, and many, many, many features of the products during these sessions. Not to talk about things like DJ Kanban that you should look at, which is fantastic, that you see at every summit event. Right. Okay, so that was just a parenthesis in the presentation, but we came up and we covered the ingredients of this secret sauce of the successful teams. Right, but once you have those ingredients in place, you are working on it, how do you measure? Well, you need to measure if your teams are improving, right? And what you do? Of course, you send this paper survey works across. No, you don't do that. That's boring, that's horrible. I mean, It's like when you take one of these and you think, okay, I will fill it up. It's just a couple of questions anyway. And then you flip the page. Oh no, another 50 questions. Now you hate it. So we're experimenting with two different things. One, we have in our meeting rooms these iPads. And we started, implementing these mood applications where, we can click anonymously so that we can measure it a bit. And then we started, of course, in the spirit of Atlassian, we started playing with this and changing the questions like, how is your boss treating you today? Right? And after the so many parties that we have, we were asking people, how do you feel today, the day after? Yeah, right. You can adopt this mood, by the way. It's an open source and it's available, so I'm happy to share that with you later on during the presentations. But of course, there are also more serious ways to measure the health of your teams. And we've created this 2 years ago, and I've announced it during one of our events, the Team Health Monitors. So after a lot of discussion internally, we came up with a list of 8 attributes that we believe will give you a good idea of how your teams are functioning, right? So we started using internally, and we've already run more than 600 internal sessions of these team health monitors. My team has run the second one last week. We compared to the previous quarter. It was amazing how much change and how much we improved. So, of course, it's not only for the project teams, but all the other teams at Atlassian wanted that too, and we created these team health monitors for other teams, and we are increasing more and creating even more. Some of these attributes are the same for all of the teams. Like, for example, a balanced team is important to have. But of course, if you are working in different teams like leadership and services, there will be aspects that will be different from each other. Like, proof of concept only applies to project, whereas customer centricity is more proper to a services team. So let me give you an example of how it works. So, for example, I might have jumped a slide here. What I wanted to say is that one of the attributes that always come red in one of these practices is a shared understanding. Right? Shared understanding is something that is very important. We were looking at that in one of the ingredients of the formula, or shared mindset, right? It's really important. So, because this team health monitors are like going to the doctor, right? You diagnosed that there is an issue, but now what do you do to solve this? So the example is here. The shared understanding always comes red. And then what we do are some practices that we call team plays. And some examples of these practices are an elevator pitch. So let's try to, in 30 seconds or in 2 sentences, define the project that we're working on. And you will be surprised how many different opinions there are in even small teams of 5 or 10. People really, the shared understanding really is important. Then we can also create a project poster. What is that? Now let's create a poster with a more detailed explanation of the project and try to see what the impact that it causes on the rest of the company. And another way of doing that is the demo trust. Remember, the brain trust is the same idea. So we'll present this project or whatever we're working on to other teams of the company and ask their feedbacks, their opinions. So these are only 3 of many, many team plays that we are developing now. And we keep on developing more. And the good news is, this is all available for you. If you go to atlassian.com/team-playbook, you will find this, the team health monitors and all the team plays. It's an amazing way, and I can tell you that it's helping wonders internally at Atlassian, and we hope that will help other companies as well. Totally free of charge. There's no charging here. It's just another way for us to contribute to the mission that we have, which is unleash the potential in every team. Right, we're finishing here. I just wanted to leave you with 2 thoughts that make me very proud of working at Atlassian. Is that we try to empower the teams to think and act like founders, like having that responsibility, having that power to change things. And in terms of changing things, the other value that I like very much is this: be the change you seek. If you find something that you don't like, rather than moaning in the corners or moaning to a colleague during a coffee, well, use the Fika or use any other platforms that we have to expose your ideas and make changes, because it's very important. At the end of the day, what it counts is that to team up, because then you can make things awesome inside your company. And I hope that with these ideas, you may use some of them to help make your teams more collaborative, more productive, and above all, happier. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you during the breaks. Thank you.